What are your thoughts these days about renting versus buying? If people call in and ask, what's better?
Better, I think, is the funny word there. Is
Yeah.
it better to rent or buy? Well, it depends. If you're broke, it's better to rent. If you've got money and you're in a good financial position, get off the sidelines. Buy a house. Get your foot in the door. It's a moving goalpost. The $400,000 house 5 years from now is likely going to be more. It's going to be $500,000 or $550,000. And so I want people to buy a house as soon as they're financially ready. And it's a simple strategy here. Are you consumer debt free? Do you have an emergency fund? And do you have some good reserves to put down on the house? If you're doing it that way and the mortgage isn't going to be 60% of your take-home pay, like some of these callers have situations, then go ahead, buy a house and do it for the right reasons, do it in the right area, do your research, work with a real estate pro, and do it the right way. But most people are so frustrated with pent-up rage about renting that they're just willing to do anything to get in that house at any cost, and it becomes a burden instead of a blessing. That's what pains me when people call in and they've made that mistake.
And how do you think the election affects most people that call in?
In reality, this election, whoever is president will have little to no effect on your personal finances. How much you make, how much you take home, your spending habits, largely that's still going to be the same as it was. We can argue about, well, what if they change a tax law, which largely affects the ultra wealthy? What if it affects other policy that could trickle down and affect me? At the end of the day, when you look at me shopping at the grocery store and me paying my bills, there's very little that a singular politician can do in the White House that could affect it. Now, state and local politics, way more effect on that. We have a bill right now. I just saw it in one of my neighborhood Facebook group, and there's a bill that could increase all of our property taxes. And that is a much scarier thing than the person in the White House chiming about some student loan forgiveness. That will never happen. So I don't think the election is going to affect many people. It'll affect them emotionally. Yeah, there are other policies that aren't financial, but when it comes to personal finance, which is the world I live in, it's still going to be the guy in the mirror with the same income, the same job, the same habits, the same lack of budgeting. That's what's going to hold you back, not the person in the White House.
Now, what do you think the government should be responsible for?
Upholding reasonable laws. That's all I expect out of a government. And give me my driver's license in an efficient manner and let me go about my day and my way. The problem is I think the government has now overreached. They're trying to cause people to become dependent on them and go, hey, you need us. So this is why we need to be more involved, more regulation. And sure, I don't want to live in a chaotic society. I want to live in a organized society. And so it's kind of like the HOA. HOA can be great. It can uphold your property values. It avoids Joe Schmo having an RV and chaos in his front yard. But it can also mean a lack of freedom to do what I want to my house. So I think there's a reasonable level of involvement. And I think overall, we're seeing the government want to step in more and more to solve things in ways they are not capable of solving and not good at solving, in a way that the private sector could solve much better. And that's kind of where Elon comes in and goes, guys, you got to think about this differently. If you think of it like a business, it should have been bankrupt 70 times over by now, based on the spending and the revenue. And so
a lot of it to me seems like bribery from both sides.
A lot of
trying
corruption.
to get votes, of just,
lobbying.
We'll lower your taxes if you vote for me. If you vote for me, we'll give you a $10,000 home buyer credit. Or if you vote for me, we'll do that.
If you vote for a politician for something they're going to do for you, you've already lost. You've already given up your agency as a human over to someone who truly does not care about you. That's the frustrating part for me. And so truly, I don't care who wins the election. My life will largely be unchanged, wherever I cast my vote. And I'm totally okay with that. And I will survive, regardless of who it is. As long as they don't truly cause World War III and end the world, we will survive and live to fight another day. And so that's kind of my stance on all of this stuff, is it's fun to talk about policy, but when it comes to certain politicians changing your life, it's not going to happen. Like, you have way more ability to change your life than anyone out there. And you guys know that. No politician was the reason you're here today, because you guys hustled your butts, did it for a long period of time, and entertained and served a lot of people. That's it.
Speaking of a lot of government overreach, do you think that there should be a minimum wage?
Oh, do I think there should be a minimum wage?
Should the minimum wage be nothing and just set by the current market rate? Whatever someone is willing to accept is the wage.
I mean, that is how I think largely the economy's been going. Because when you look at the federal minimum wage, you can't live on that anyways. And so in no point in history was $7 an hour going to give you a wonderful life. And if you look at old, you can look at, well, in the 1940s, you just needed a nickel and you could buy. Sure, we can look at the old days. But in today's economy, no one is making it off of $7 an hour or even $13 an hour. Like that's 26 grand a year. And so I believe that you're much better off going, not what is the minimum wage I can get on by for the rest of my life, but what are ways I can increase my skill set and marketplace value to go get a $20 an hour job instead of the 15? What are the changes I need to make about myself to get me there? And so I think the argument about minimum wage is just it's a losing argument because who wants to stay there?
I think a lot of this got brought up recently because of California's $20 minimum wage for fast food workers. And it was just isolated originally to certain fast food chains. And from what I've heard is that it's not just impacting the fast food work because initially the thought was that, it's just this and then everything else will be, the normal minimum wage. What I heard from someone was recently impacted by this who owns a smallish business is that all the employees expected a raise. And this is not fast food. They all expected a raise as well because they said, well, why am I working for $16 an hour when I could work a fast food job and get 20?
Yeah.
And so I'd rather just work the fast food job and get 20.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But part of it is...
But a lot of it too, those fast food workers, I think are getting their hours cut because there's not enough profit there to be able to support that
That's the part I want to
business.
address is as a business owner, what do you think you got to do to keep running this business and not go bankrupt? You have to increase your prices. If you don't increase prices and you've increased your cost of labor, well, very quickly you're going to run out of money. And so that's what people aren't understanding is that if you increase the minimum wage, what happens is everything gets inflated because every business owner in America or in that type of world is now going to have to increase their prices enough to pay that person that wage, which means everyone else is going to suffer. And by the way, the person working the minimum wage job also has to pay inflated prices. So now we're just moving everything up. So now your groceries cost, 10% more because your wage went up 10% more.
Yeah.
And so it's really not doing as much as people think it is. I'd rather see people go, how do I get away from a $10 an hour job and go make 20 instead? What are the skills needed? What are the jobs out there? What are they requiring? How do I develop myself to get there?
Yeah, it was funny. We asked Kevin O'Leary the same question. We said, what should the minimum wage be? And his answer was...
He said $0?
$0.
I knew it. That is such a Kevin answer.
Nothing.
Mr. Wonderful.
Whatever someone is willing to take, that is the price.
I mean, yeah, where does it end? If I'm going to pay a babysitter, do they go, well, minimum wage is $25 an hour now, so you got to pay $25 an hour to watch my, baby sleep through a monitor. So I just don't think it plays out in reality, and it's not because I want people to stay broke. It's because I want them to want better for themselves.